Hello everyone, Semi-Retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. Today I'm going to answer that question, carnivore diet, what is it? For those of you new to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. You may be asking yourself, Bob, what in the world are we watching here? Well, basically you're watching me walk. I know this doesn't seem super exciting, but just one short year ago, I couldn't do this. I could barely stand for 2 to 2.5 minutes without severe pain. Now I'm out here walking every day. Well, I'm walking most days. I'm doing a lot of other stuff now. I'm not paying somebody else to do my yard work. I'm working out at the Y both in the pool and with some weights. So I'm doing a lot of other stuff rather than just walking every day. But the whole point of this is to show you that it's never too late to change your life. I started this the day before my 59th birthday. It's now a little bit over a week past my 60th birthday. And if you go back and watch any one of my older videos, even just going back a few months to January, you'll be able to see a big difference. But if you go all the way back to September 1st, and I'll link that on the end here so that you can see that. If you go all the way back to September 1st, when I started my walking challenge, I think you'll see a big difference. But yeah, it's never too late to change your life. For those of you returning to the channel, welcome back. I am glad you're here. It's another beautiful day in Omaha, Nebraska. It's about, 78 degrees right now, which is darn near perfect. But anyway, let's talk about carnivore diet. What is it? I decided, here comes a loud truck of some sort. Range Rover. But what is it? And the reason we're doing this is I was reading some comments on one of the other channels that I watch, and somebody said, I really like all the carnivore channels that I watch, but they all seem to assume that everybody's been watching them for a long time, and that they don't consider the first time viewer, I think is about what they were saying. So I'm going to go back to the basics here for just a few videos. Today I'm going to talk about what the carnivore diet is, and over the next few days I'm going to talk about what to eat, what not to eat, how to evaluate what you should eat, things like that. Just some, go back to the beginning and hit a few of the basics for those of you that might be new, or somebody that just wants a refresher course up. Okay, so let's get into it here. What is the carnivore diet? Well, the carnivore diet is basically just eating animals and animal products. It's that simple. The primary food that you should be having on a carnivore diet is ruminant meat, the muscle meat of large ruminant animals, and the associated fat. Here in the United States, that means primarily beef, but beef, lamb, elk, deer, bison, those are the main ruminants. Depending on where you're at in the world, camel is a ruminant animal. There's a lot of choices out there. And if we listen to Professor K, he'll let us know that ruminant meat, muscle meat, and its associated fats should make up a good portion of our diet. And you might say, well, gosh, Bob, what does that mean? What is a good portion? I would say at least 80 to 85%. of your diet should be those things. But that's just my opinion. I have no science behind it. And let's talk about that real quick. The science behind it. People are always saying, well, show me the science, show me the studies that this is safe. My answer to that is show me the science, show me the studies that show it isn't safe. There aren't any in either direction. Just like there aren't any actual scientific studies about any other diet out there. They just don't exist. There aren't any. So don't let your friends get you into that trap. Just try it. What I would say is try it for 90 days and see if you notice a difference. I think you will. I think you'll notice something long before 90 days. 99% of the people out there will. Some won't, but most will. So anyway, that's the basic meat. But you can have, to change it up, you can try fish and chicken and pork. Let's not forget about eggs. And not just chicken eggs, but chicken eggs, duck eggs, quail eggs. Basically any egg is a powerhouse of food. The next thing people might ask about is, what about organ meats? I don't like organ meats, and everybody I've listened to says you got to have some organ meats. You can have organ meats on the carnivore diet, but I don't think it's absolutely required, as long as the majority of your food is coming from the muscle meat and associated fat of large ruminant animals. If you're getting, if you're one of these people that, well, Bob, I just don't like beef that well, so I'm going to have some chicken and some pork and some fish. Okay, then you may be one of these people that wants to have a little bit of organ meat every now and then. I don't think there's a huge problem with eating organ meat as long as you're doing it in appropriate amounts. Let's think about this for just a moment. If you are, let's just say you're a human living in this time period, but you're a single farmer by yourself, just yourself. You go out and you get yourself a cow. You're the great hunter. You take your spear, you go out into your field, and you take down a cow. And while, yes, last time I said this, I had somebody say, I've seen cow's liver, and they can be 2-3 pounds. They're pretty big. Yeah, they are pretty big, but if you add up all of the meat that you get, all of the muscle meat and its associated fat that you get from a cow, and you were the only one eating on that cow, you might be able to have liver every day with your meal, provided you're only eating an ounce or two. If you want to sit down to a whole great big plate full of liver, you're only going to get that 2 or 3 times off the eating up the entire cow. So I believe that's about the proportion that you should be eating organ meats at. But it's entirely up to you. That's the whole thing about the carnivore diet. Everybody's body is different. Everybody responds to certain things a little different. So you need to just try something and see if it works for you. What I would suggest Dr. Berry and several others have combined together to make this thing semi-famous. It's called beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. Basically, to start off with, that's what you're going to have. Beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. Now, if you live in one of those parts of the world where beef is hard to get and camel is your primary ruminant animal, then have camel bacon, butter, and eggs. Or bison butter, bacon, and eggs. Whatever animal it is that you choose that you have easy access to. And that's all you're going to eat. For the first 45 to 90 days, that's called the elimination diet. And that takes all of the inflammatory things out of your diet. Then from there, let's say, well, I'd really like to add some fish in. Okay. Cook some fish up in butter. Eat it and see how your body reacts to it. Or cook up some pork. Or cook up some chicken. Whatever it is. Just keep, when you add foods back in, make sure you do it one at a time so that you can tell if your body has a reaction to it or not. But, if you live in one of these areas where you have ready access to seafood, and that's what's cheapest, you can do a seafood diet. I don't know that that's optimal or ideal, but try it for a while and see what your body thinks. If you live that close to the water, you probably mix it up with several different kinds of seafood to make sure you're getting everything you need. And don't forget to cook all that fish in butter or tallow or ghee or lard, bacon grease, so that you make sure you're getting plenty of fat. If salmon is what you can get in your area, salmon is a fairly fatty fish. So you won't need to add a whole lot to that. But you will need to add some if you're having, a lot of tilapia. I don't even know what all the fishes are. I'm here in Nebraska where, sorry, car going by again. I'm about as far from deep water as you can get here. So, I don't know a whole lot about fish. I know a lot of people eat sardines. A lot of people eat mackerel and herring, the little tiny fishes. I think that's all perfectly okay. That's all carnivore. It is an animal. So just mix it up. Try different things. See how you feel. I think you'll find that those are the basics. Now let's talk about a couple other things that certain people out there will talk about. They're like, oh, well, honey. Honey comes from an animal, so I must be able to have as much of that as I want too. No. As several of the big influencers will say, honey is basically bee vomit. So no, you probably shouldn't have any of that. Because number one, nobody wants to eat vomit. And number two, it's pure sugar. And we know sugar is poisonous to the body, causes inflammation. It's just bad for you. That's one of the things we're trying to get rid of here. So in the basics of it, the very start, it's like, well, how do I actually start this thing, Bob? Well, the first thing you want to do is get rid of all the bad stuff. Anything processed or highly processed. Basically, if you look at a package and it has more than 2 or 3 ingredients, throw it away. That's not food. So you get all the processed food out of your life. You get all the grains out of your life. And you get all the vegetable seed oils out of your life. Which actually, you know, if you think about it, the grains and the vegetable seed oils both fall under the processed food category. So I don't know if you're familiar with how they go about making vegetable seed oils, but it is a big process. They have to come from a factory. And then basically get all the plants out of your diet. Now do this slowly over a period of weeks. You know, slowly increase your fatty meat intake and slowly decrease the amount of plants and other things that you're eating until you get to where you're just eating, as I said, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, or however you've decided your carnivore diet is going to look. Once you get to straight carnivore, now you've started. Once you're there, well, how much should I eat, Bob? Eat until you're comfortably stuffed, or eat till you're full. One of the things that works for many people that I talk to, if you start off with a big, thick ribeye steak and it tastes fantastic, then you're still hungry. When you get to the point where it doesn't taste as good, and you're noticing that it doesn't quite taste as good as when you started, that's probably about where you should stop for the day. One other quick thing I want to talk about, because I'm coming back up on the house here from going around the block. There are some people out there that say, well, you need a few carbohydrates in your system. And they're right. You do need some carbohydrates in your system. Your body does need glucose in certain tissues to run properly. That's why we have a thing called gluconeogenesis. Your body can make all the sugar it requires, all the glucose it requires from other things. I don't know who left their sunglasses on my truck, but I'm going to have to throw those away, because those are certainly not mine and they don't belong on the hood of my truck. But you don't need to be adding carbohydrates into your system. You just don't. But that's the basics of what is a carnivore diet. To repeat it, as Professor K says, the exact requirement for exogenous carbohydrates, which means carbohydrates you put in your mouth, the exact requirement for exogenous carbohydrates in the human diet is not 1 gram ever. Tune in next time and we'll continue on with this discussion. We'll start it off with electrolytes and move on from there. Don't forget, get out there, be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, every day. Have a great day, folks. I will see you in the next one.